Hello everyone, it's Mr. E here, and this is a plank with some nails in it. That's the video. Thank you very much for watching. Like and subscribe. Go down below and leave a comment. Tell me what your favorite nail is. And I'll see in a few hours on the analytics whether or not that joke paid off, or if people stopped watching at the 5-second mark. What I'm actually here today to talk about is game balance, and if you saw for the thumbnail, I'm specifically actually calling for nerfs on one ability in particular. No prizes for guessing which one it is, it's in the thumbnail, and it's probably the most popular ability in the game for people to call for nerfs on. Maybe only second to Shroudfield. But I don't call for nerfs on very many things. This is a cooperative game, and you can do whatever you want, right? As long as you're not ruining other people's fun. But I start to draw an issue when it does cut into ruining other people or your own fun by having lack of diversity. And so the goal overall for Fat Shark in the game should be to level out these buffs as much as possible. And so that's what the board is here to represent. Each one of the nails is representing a ability or a power or a weapon, and it's compared against all other things that are equipable in the same slot, all other builds that you could go for. And we have obviously some low ranking ones on the totem pole, such as burst limiter override, which I've already suggested an improvement for, or feel no pain, right? Those are things that I'm on record as saying I think they need a little bit of an increase in power. But at the same time, you can't increase their power to make them on level with Shroudfield or Voice of Command. Those abilities are so powerful that if every ability in the game was as powerful as they are, then the game would be completely trivialized. And in order to fix the game and make the game challenging again, they would have to buff the enemies and make them fucking crazy. And then if you weren't using one of those overpowered abilities, you would feel the wrath of God as these overpowered enemies stomp all over you. It's like the way that Havoc feels if you aren't using actual good builds, right? So the problem with having these high performing skills is they kind of crowd out using anything else. And the chief one that I think is a big offender of that is Voice of Command, because the other two veteran abilities are fine, right? You can make a good build around these. You can make a very decent build that does a lot of damage, that provides support to the team through these two skills, but it is completely overshadowed by how powerful Voice of Command is. So if you don't know why Voice of Command is so powerful, maybe you're a newer player, this video is going to explain it to you. And it's also going to propose something that I think should probably be done about Voice of Command, about gold toughness in general, because that is the really broken thing about this ability, is that it has a 30-second cooldown, it has a 15-second buff, which means a 50% uptime on this buff that Duty and Honor grants that breaks the game, more or less. And here's how it breaks the game. So we've got a regular little melee enemy Duder here. I'm gonna fill up my toughness with gold toughness. I'm gonna make certain my invulnerability is off. And let's see how many times this guy can hit me before I take damage. He can hit me 1, 2, 3, and 4 times. And I finally took damage on the 4th attack. Compared that to if I just have regular toughness, we'll wait the 10 seconds for it. If I just have regular toughness, I can take, waiting 3 seconds, awkward pause, filling the awkward pause with dialogue. Okay, so if I have regular blue toughness, I can take 1, 2 attacks, and now I start taking damage, right? Taking damage is a very integral part of this game. You need to avoid damage as much as possible. And full disclosure, this is on Heresy difficulty that I'm demonstrating this on, because I think a lot of players are playing on that difficulty. And the lower difficulty you go, the more oppressively overpowered that Duty and Honor and Voice of Command becomes, because there is such little damage being distributed on those difficulties that your shields, your toughness, that gold toughness bar, can just tank infinity attacks without having to worry about damage at all. And removing that element from the game really kind of messes with the whole formula. How can you understand whether or not you're getting good at the game and avoiding attacks and appropriately blocking stuff if you always have this extra layer of safety that can prevent all damage to you? And it does really absurd things, such as even having a singular point of gold toughness will protect you from insta-kills. And you can see there I had the invulnerability off. It'll completely protect you from insta-kill attacks like Crusher overheads, which is amazing. Even a single point of gold toughness will do that. And that buff itself lasts for 15 seconds, and you can regenerate it while the buff is going on. So as long as you have that buff, you can see it above my little hexagon there. As long as I have that bar, that 15-second buff on my screen, what I can do is I can have my regular poxwalkers, and I'll get my gold toughness, and I'll let them hit me. Make sure my invulnerability is off. And they'll break my toughness if they could do it in time. And then I'll kill one and get my toughness back. And now I can take another hit without taking any damage to my actual health. So you can, if you're a classic, can regenerate toughness very quickly, which is, by my estimation, literally every single class in the game right now. You can go above that gold threshold repeatedly in that 15 seconds and get basically infinity free hits. As long as you can keep putting yourself into gold toughness, every time you are in gold toughness, that is at least one free hit from a regular enemy you can take. And that sort of damage absorption, that sort of damage prevention is just not something that the game was designed around. Remember that the toughness system, the way that damage bleed through works on toughness, was last iterated upon in one of the updates to the beta of the game. So there was no readjustment after this whole gold toughness thing came out to account for bleed through. And I think that the gold toughness in general, between this and the book, are just becoming way too dominant in the meta. I think the book is a little bit more fine, specifically because the book has a 60-second base cooldown, which you can reduce by having some skill and getting some crits with the zealot, but it only has a 10-second duration of its gold buff. The veteran, on the other hand, has a 30-second base cooldown with a 15-second duration on that buff, and the duration of the buff is what is so crazy here. Now, I am kind of calling for nerf on this ability. I think it needs to be tamped down because it's completely making using any other build obsolete on the veteran. There are good builds, like I was saying before, there are good builds you can make with Executioner's Stance and Infiltrate. However, at best, you're hindering yourself when you're using one of these abilities instead of Voice of Command. And at worst, you're kind of low-key griefing the team by not bringing something that benefits everybody and can clutch and save the day, rather than playing with something a little bit more selfish like Infiltrate. Everything you can do with Infiltrate, such as rescuing your allies, doing an objective, can be done just as well by just shouting and knocking all the enemies within a huge radius to the ground and buffing yourself and your allies a crazy amount in the process. So I think that this ability needs to be tamped down to make using the other abilities at least somewhat viable or interesting. Because when I say things are overpowered, I only really care when they reduce the overall build diversity and fun element in the game, and the build diversity for veterans is at an all-time low right now. It's approaching Zealot levels, but at least Zealots have some choices between which ultimates they use. Veterans are pretty much pigeonholed into using Voice of Command. If you see a veteran using anything else, you just immediately go, ugh, like what are you doing? Because this single ability brings so much to the team, it feels detrimental to play without it at this point. And I think we've gotten a little bit complacent in that sense. So what should be done about it? I think the simplest change to make to this is that Duty and Honor needs to be modified. This exceeding the maximum toughness thing is fine. It can raise your maximum toughness bar. Like, for instance, I have 209. If it made my toughness 259, but it stayed as blue toughness, that would still increase the amount of range damage that I could take, since range damage is completely blocked by toughness no matter what your toughness level is. And it would still reduce the damage that I would take from subsequent melee attacks, because I would have a larger pool and therefore a smaller percentage loss every time I took an attack on that. However, the gold toughness thing has got to go. The fact that it provides you one free attack, including things from otherwise like insta-kill or insta-shield breaks like sniper shots and burster attacks, that has to go. It's too much of a safety blanket. It prevents too much damage, and it promotes like a really lazy and inattentive playstyle. I have fallen into this trap myself where the only time I'm really paying attention when I'm playing in games is when I look down at my bar and I see I have blue toughness on there. And usually between myself as a book zealot and the maybe another book zealot and the veteran on the team, it's usually a fraction of a second before I'm golded up again and I can go, whew, I don't have to worry about taking damage at all because I know that if anything hits me, no matter how big, I am insured against taking damage for at least one hit. And yeah, I just really think it's unhealthy, and it's especially unhealthy for players who are learning the game and need to learn when they are actually taking damage. You shouldn't be able to go through a combat and just do like, I've got like 50 million of these dudes. I shouldn't just be able to go through a combat and have this be the whole thing. Right? Impressive skills I'm demonstrating here, right? Just randomly slashing. And you see the only time I took damage was after my gold buff fell off. That's how effective this skill is. And this is on Heresy, right? This is the second highest base difficulty. So, yeah, I think that perfectly proves the point it's just overtuned. It makes it way too easy, and it makes the game unengaging to interact with. You don't really feel like you're in danger, and being in danger is the whole theme of the game. Anyway, I think that's all I had to say about this ability. I don't generally call for nerfs, but I would love to see some other things get a chance to shine. And if you feel the same way, give a like, a subscribe. If you don't feel the same way, let me know down in the comments. Like and subscribe anyway. I might be targeting one of your other favorite abilities next. And thanks for watching. Mr. E out.